Hello again. I'm back. I'm Randy. I'm joined by Eric, who I guess I'm joining him. How you doing?
Yeah, joining me. I'm here. I'm the mainstay here.
Got it. That's how it works. That was not fun. I wish
I
I could have had
promised
real
everyone
hands.
watching at the end of that match that we were going to get your best Martell impression and a little bit of salt. 5 mulligans in the 2 games you lost.
Yeah, it happens. Those are
Just
definitely
let it
bad.
out. Just let a little bit out. It's all right.
Well, actually, the thing I'm saltiest at is I played badly. Game one, I should totally have played the Lotus on the first turn. And game two, I probably should have played the Mana Crypt on the first turn. Game one, I have no excuse for whatsoever. That was just stupid. I've spent 2.5 hours casting other people's matches and just my head was in the wrong place. The Mana Crypt is a little sketchier since I'm probably bargaining, but I think I still should have played it. I'd rather take 1.5 damage off the average coin flip than just because it's so much better if I get unmasked. I was so tight on mana the way it played out. I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, I don't think either of those decisions affected the win-loss results, but I'm mad at myself for playing badly. Both those decisions were just wrong.
Right. Yeah. The game one we pointed out. I'm not sure that the Mana Crypt one is a big deal. I'm sure what you're saying right now that it would have been better if you had the Mana Crypt in play, and of course,
I mean, the way the
would have
cards
made the
played
game a
out, it
little
would
easier.
absolutely have been better. He had the unmask, and I drew like 15 cards off bargain without being able to find an artifact to turn on my opal. So, but
Yeah,
I mean, that's results
first two off the
oriented. I
deck
think.
is so good. Just Jet,
Sorry.
Ritual, Opal. Your first 4 cards off the deck, I think, were Jet, Opal, Ritual. Just like
Right.
wow,
Right, which
exactly
is why
what
I'm
you
just
want.
like, I'll
Like,
throw in a duress. I'll make sure I don't have to think about mental misstep, which is also probably wrong because
yeah,
he has
I
the
like that play.
yeah, no, there's a bazaar for to go get the misstep. So I
Yeah,
played really badly those two games. I mean, I got
so he's gonna misstep the Ritual anyway, right? So
well, but I was baiting that. Like the ritual is me baiting a misstep. But then once I've successfully baited the misstep, yeah, he's gonna misstep there. The duress is just wrong.
yeah, it's kind of just spewing away a man at that point, which
Yeah. Well,
definitely
I'm
something has to
increasing
come back
storm.
to bite you.
Yeah,
That game
like I
still
said,
worked out.
yes, those two games had the correct ones. So you didn't get to see my mulligans in game one. I
Game,
mulliganed.
game 3, we got to see your hand.
Yeah, I think I don't regret any of those decisions, and yeah, I don't regret anything I did in game three. I just wish he didn't have the mental misstep because it would have been lots of fun. If he doesn't have
Yeah,
the
that
misstep.
was going to be an interesting line game 3, no matter what.
What did you have me on for my line?
We talked about a number of things. I assumed you were going to obviously ritual and cast tutor.
Yeah.
And then what you get, like, it could be strip mine. It could be.
Not strip mine. Go ahead.
No, I'm not entirely sure what the best.
All right. So my line, if Dark Ritual resolves, I'm going to demonic tutor. I'm going to get Black Lotus. I'm going to Burning Wish for Time Twister, and I'm going to cast Time Twister.
Sure.
I think that, I mean, I was 1 mana short of being able to ritual DT for Lotus, Burning Wish for Yawgmoth's Will, cast Yawgmoth's Will, bring back the ritual and the Lotus to DT for Tendrils. It's 1 mana short of just blam, turn 1 kill without a draw 7. But I was a mana short of that, so I was just going to twist and see what happens.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure where like the locations of the draw 7s between your deck and sideboard are. So
yeah, I mean, there's a wheel in the main deck. I could DT for wheel. I could also have DT Ritual Lotus, and then Yawgmoth's Will to DT for Necro, and then I can Necro. I can basically end the turn with Necropotence and a handful of Necro cards and say go. That was the other line. If I think that's worse than just twisting and continuing to go. Honestly, I think the only reason that's really worse than twisting is that I really would enjoy having a turn 1 kill, and I'd probably let that infect my play there. It's not a first turn kill if I necro up the hand that kills him, I don't think.
Tom actually had a really interesting decision in game 3. His opening hand had Unmasked that he could cast and a Bazaar in his opening 7, and he decided to chip that, which I obviously have no idea whether that's right or wrong, but I assume that Tom's play was right, which, it's not something that I would have been able to do playing the deck. So
interesting.
He ended up having to go down to 5 and, of course, hit Bizarre Grave Troll, and things worked out well.
Yeah, well, I mean, good God. He mulligans and then has the misstep to top my potential first turn 1 kill, and then kills me on turn 2. Good grief.
This is vintage right here. The 2 moles to 5.
Right.
We're debating who's going to win on turn 2 based on which disruption they have. It's pretty crazy.
Well, he had to stop me from winning on turn one. Like he has to interact with me to stop me from winning. I don't know that it's not a guaranteed turn one kill, but like I have a storm count of 6 and I'm time twistering. Like I like my chances of at least killing on turn 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh well. Yeah, so in game 1, the only decision I could have, well, my 7 card hand was garbage. My 5 card hand was garbage. My 6 card hand was Mana Crypt, Mox Opal, Wheel of Fortune, and then like Duress, Imperial Seal. Like no third artifact. So I have no land and I have no third artifact, but I have a Mana Crypt, a Mox Opal, and a Wheel of Fortune. So basically, any land or any artifact turns it on and lets me draw 7 on the first turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a mulligan because if I don't I am drawing, but if I don't immediately top deck land or artifact, then I just pass the turn having done nothing.
Right.
Like maybe turn 2 is soon enough, but I don't know.
Also, isn't there a chance that Wheel of Fortune's just terrible for you?
Yeah, it does fill his graveyard. Like I need to win on the turn I wheel. Right? I'd much rather twist against him. Twist is actively good against him. Wheel is actively bad.
Right.
So yeah,
crazy match.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I would happily play that match again at whatever stakes. I think I'm favored, but not with the draw he had in game 3, that's for sure, and not with the draws I had.
Yeah, sequenced everything well and had good draws, and Bazaars came out as they're supposed to do, and turn 2s.
Oh well.
Match. So
yeah,
Tom, 2-0 with the Dredge deck.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to win that one. So Bob and Dave are getting ready. I guess we don't have them ready. Okay, sounds like we have just now gotten them. Are they in a game? Let's go to it.
This is my main event.
Yeah? Set us up.
Well, I mean, mostly just, I don't know. These guys are obviously 2 of my closest friends, but of course we've had matches between like Josh Utter-Layton and Louis Scott Vargas this week, are of course also 2 of my closest friends. So, it's hard because there's so many good matches in Vintage, but these guys were playing Vintage before I knew anything about Vintage and while I was still friends with them. And so when I first was getting into the game, it was hearing the type of things that they had to say. And both great players. I think the matchup is super interesting, actually. I really kind of like my matchup against Chris's version of Shops, of course, Terra Nova. And I think Dave's got a tougher matchup because a card like Metalworker, which we see right now in Bob Maher's opening hand, is extremely effective, can actually after sideboard pay for things like Energy Flux, which is crazy. And it can be hard to deal with creatures once they're in play for the blue control deck. So I think this match is going to be super tight. And I know Dave trying to pump himself up to get ready to play this match. So sure. I think both players are definitely going to give it their all here too.
Dave decides not to Ancestral in the first turn because he'd rather play a Soul Ring into a top and spin the top. You like that line?
Yeah, getting Soul Ring into play and top, and was this his opening hand? Yeah, he hasn't drawn any different cards. Yeah, it seems pretty good. He still has Force of Will up, so whatever he does is going to be fine. There's no need to cast Ancestral right away. I mean, you're going to be able to cast it next turn, and might as well have more mana to be able to cast your cards anyway. So this seems pretty reasonable. He has the option.
You're not guaranteed to get to cast it next turn, right? Chalice can happen, Trinisphere can happen.
All these things can happen, but he has Force of Will in his hand.
True.
So
there's a lot of value in getting Soul Ring onto the table.
Yes. And Bob's deck, of course, is playing the extremely controversial Vintage card, Black Lotus. Not a card you see in a lot of these Mishra's Workshop decks.
Luis made the same joke last week.
Did he? But yeah, so it's actually interesting because it's very hard for a Terra Nova type deck without Black Lotus to cast multiple spells that you care so much about that one Force of Will is just not going to get the job done. But for Bob's deck, or for Chris's deck, he's going to need a whole bunch of Moxes to be able to do that. With Bob's deck, one of his big lands and a Lotus means that maybe there's 2 spells that shut you out from ever being able to cast your Ancestral. So it's interesting. But yeah, I actually would have played the first turn the same way that Dave did.
Yep, makes sense.
I actually, I would have forced pitching the Spell Snare, actually. Bob's deck is dramatically different than, again, I keep comparing the 2 Shops decks, But Bob's deck actually doesn't have a lot of 2s. He's not playing Spheres. He's not playing nearly as many Revokers. If you take a look at Terra Nova, it's going to have like 4 Spheres, 4 Thorns, 4 Evokers. Spell Snare's great. I mean, it's one of your best cards. And against Bob, he's got a couple copies of Lightning Greaves and some Thorns, but he's actually not even playing something like Sphere. And I'm not sure on his Revoker count if he has some, none. I'm pretty sure it's not like 4 or anything, but... Although I guess if Dave had already looked at the top, so he knew he was drawing into another copy of Trinket Mage and had no real use for 2. So
also knew he was drawing another Forceful.
Right, which isn't going to change Forceful in the Trinisphere, but definitely opens you up to different lines of play.
Yeah, well, here's the Lodestone Golem, but Strip Mine, Library, and Misty Rainforest are the top 3 cards.
Those are not super exciting cards.
One of
Library, because he's facing against Wasteland and only is going to have 1 card in hand.
The Misty seems fine. It's a reshuffle,
yeah,
right?
The Misty is, of course, the shuffle.
He put Strip on top. Wow.
Well, he knows he's not facing down Mishra's Workshop, so yeah, try to punish the mana.
He's going to strip the Ancient Tomb?
Yeah.
Wow. Bold. Well, let's take a peek first. Mox Ruby is the new card.
So 3 blanks, but at least one of them shuffles.
Yeah, Misty on top.
No big surprise on that one. Grafdigger's Cage is interesting. It was, of course, basically a stone blank when against a Terra Nova deck, but against Forge Master, it's actually...
Oh, it shuts down the Forge Masters.
Yeah, it's kind of tough for Bob to deal with the Grafdigger's Cage, and it's extremely tough for Dave to deal with the Forge Master. So Grafdigger's Cage, especially as something that you can just play 1 of because you have so many copies of Trinket Mage, is actually... And,
it seems pretty relevant here.
Yeah. Dave's use of Strip Mine working out great as Bob is stuck on Jet Wasteland and has...
How is Bob always stuck on mana? He spent the whole league with like 1 land and 1 Mox in play.
Yeah, this is I mean, again, I'm not the vintage aficionado who's played a million games, but I've played a lot, and the games that we've seen from these different Mishra's Workshop decks these past couple weeks have been real odd. Like,
it's not the most consistent deck in the history of Magic.
But we were talking last week. Chris played a long match against Steve and never saw a Workshop. His match against me, he drew land after land and Mox after Mox, and none of his lands were any of his man lands, and none of his spells did anything. Like, it's just crazy sometimes. And because there's no card filtering, nothing can really do. I actually ended up casting a Steel Sabotage on a Metamorph because I was worried he would get a top and could finally do things. Like, it's just crazy. All right, so Mox at least turns on cards in his hand. This Tangle Wire looks real bad right now against, especially things just like Grafdigger's Cage. Recently, these shop decks, Tangle Wire is
Tangle Wire is 2 mana from Metalworker. That's what Tangle Wire is.
Yeah, exactly. Heal. It's a card. Literally, he'll draw a card. And actually just almost a full time walk here.
Bounce the Metalworker.
Yeah. So it looks like Dave spun the top, saw nothing, and immediately shuffled with Misty.
Still got 1 floating from the Sol Ring, right? Spin it again.
There should be a man there.
He's just going to use it for repealing the Metalworker. Doesn't want to let Bob untap and have the ability to tap the Metalworker. Lotus is, I believe, blind draw.
Yeah, that's a blind draw. He's leaving up the mana to be able to activate top.
Sure. No cards in hand. Not really where the mono blue control deck wants to be, but tons of permanents.
Yeah. I mean, he still has a top. So the interesting thing about
He's got 3 cards in his hand. That's your story.
Yeah, like
he does basically have 3 cards in his hand. It's fair.
If you were to watch a Legacy's Miracle deck, you'll see that a lot of the players they almost prefer it when they have no cards in hand when they have a top in hand.
They're a lot harder to knock out when they're there.
I mean, it's obviously not the same in Vintage and in this matchup because he's not going to get Thoughtseeds or Durast, and your cards are just as protected in hand as on top of your deck. But in a lot of formats, that's not going to be the case, and just having cards on top of your deck, like he's threatening to be able to spend the top, sack a Lotus, and cast Mana Drain. And then next turn, just go crate, just cast Consecrated Sphinx, or which you can already do anyway. But
you can just keep drawing more repeals. Time walk you, hit for 2. Time walk you, hit for 2. I'm down to 8 from this hit.
Yeah, it's just going to damage does add up. Mono blue control, not really the beatdown very often, but Trinket Mage will get in for 2. And it's always been good against these artifact decks. Just 2/2 creatures are sometimes very tough to deal with. But there's the workshop.
So, yeah, there's the workshop.
This hand is now
Greaves would be super scary versus if it wasn't for the Grafdigger's Cage. You can definitely see the Grafdigger's Cage doing some work here.
Yeah, I assume he's going to cast the Grafdigger's Cage or the Lightning Greaves and.
Yeah, I assume. I mean, he can make 1 million mana. I mean, all it does is like what, duplicate the Trinket Mage and slow the beats.
It's a thing. Dave's presenting no threat. I mean, Top's in play, but he hasn't found any action yet.
A spell snare target. Except for the small problem of Chalice of the Void for 1.
Yeah, that's actually pretty brutal because it also means he can't spend the top this turn without sacking Lotus. Of course, he can still do it in his upkeep, but it's not a huge deal. But hey, he's definitely gonna be hoping to spend the top and to actually find some action. There was certainly nothing there before, as he didn't play anything and drew Spell Snare, which was a card that couldn't get through the Chalice. But Bob's hand also short on action. He can reveal 3 artifacts, cast Duplicate, give it haste, attack for 2. Not bad, but
I mean, it seems like it's the play.
Yeah, I think it's the play.
Reveal everything, make 6 mana from Metalworker, play the Duplicate.
He could not do it and have shields up for something like Consecrated Sphinx, but he knows that that's not actually there right now.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that he's on 8 means I think that he has to go down this route. All right, no Trinket Mage for you.
This is not a deck with any reach. Like, if he casts Consecrated Sphinx, that's when he has a reach. Of course, Consecrated Sphinx is a huge issue because if it comes into play, he can't actually cast anything before Dave gets to draw 2 cards, which might already mean counters are up, despite Dave having nothing currently. But yeah, going to 2 life is not a big deal, except it turns off your Ancient Tombs against Dave because there's nothing that's going to do that damage. He's not going to sneak across a point here. Like that just can't happen. He just doesn't have anything. His creatures just Trinket Mage and Consecrated Sphinx, and the only other card that has an impact is Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is not going to deal much damage.
Well, here's yet another Trinket Mage. More reshuffling.
Yeah, the shuffle effect is nice, and the 2/2 is nice. So a Trinket Mage good draw for sure.
He also gets an artifact.
Yeah.
Nothing super exciting here, but
no, I mean the only artifact. What's that?
Do you guys not have a key? You don't have Vault Key in your deck?
No.
Key would have been fun with the top to draw 2
Well, it would have gotten countered by Chalice the Void, but in theory.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, luckily for Dave, all of his 1s are already in play. Just the Soul Ring, the top, and the Cage are the 1s, and the 0s are the 5
in play in the graveyard.
Yeah, the 0s being the 5 Moxes, the Crypt, and the Lotus. So still has a few 0s left, so Trinket Mages still actually get things. Ooh.
Wow, so he flips the top for Jace, which means the top can never come back into play.
That's true. I wonder if Dave remembers the Chalice now.
I mean, he does get Jace, which is good, but it means he does not get his top for the rest of the game.
That is completely true.
Left 1 mana untapped. He's not going to do this again, is he? No, he's not. Yeah. Misty Rainforest. There you go.
All right, so Dave's shields are completely down. Now being hellbent is a thing. Like you were talking about this earlier. I tried to play devil's advocate as much as I could, and say that having top in play means that you're looking at mana drain basically being there from time to time and being a huge threat. But no top, and as you pointed out, top is not coming back. So,
but yeah. Jace.
Yes, Jace.
I mean, Bob needs to do something more or less immediately.
Yeah, any threat that Bob draws right now, though, is going to be great. Like, if he just draws a Forge Master, you can't use it because of the
It's a 3/5?
Yeah. It's
a use it to turn it sideways.
Attack Jace. Yeah, exactly.
It puts on some Greaves and turns sideways and threatens to kill Jace.
Yeah, it's
actually, it kills Jace because all 3 creatures will? No, like the Metalworker probably has to tap for mana. No, it kills Jace. It basically, the Forge Master gets chunked by Trinket Mage, and then Duplicate and Metalworker would kill Jace.
Yeah, he could just draw another Duplicate to take out the Trinket Mage, and then Dave's in real bad shape. There's Forge
Wow,
Master.
there it is. Kodalth the Forge Master.
Exactly what we talked about.
Off the top, I count 5 mana without having to tap Metalworker.
Yeah, looks like 6.
Yeah, I don't think Bob wants to tap Metalworker for mana here. I think he wants to tap everything else so that he can definitely kill Jace.
Yeah, what's going to happen is the Trinket Mage is just going to eat the Metalworker, and Jace is going to die no matter how he blocked, assuming all 3 creatures attack.
Right.
So it's going to be, a vanilla 3-power creature and a villain 2-power creature against a vanilla 2-power creature. Dave's going to get a shuffle off his Misty. Bob's still at 8. So let's say this plays out exactly as we just said. He plays Forge Master, gives it haste, attacks, Metalworker gets eaten, Jace dies. Dave can attack it down to 6. So if you draw something like Consecrated Sphinx, or
but he knows he's got a top on top of his library.
No, he's going to shuffle.
Oh, he's Misty, right? Sorry, he's shuffling with Misty. So he's drawing off of he's empty-handed, hell-bent, drawing off of a freshly shuffled library.
Actually, is his top card a Jace? Did he put back Jace on top and kept Misty or no?
Yes, those are the 2 cards. I don't know which one's on top now that you mention it. Yeah. It could be the backup Jace.
I was pretty sure he put the top second and Jace is on top, but I wasn't paying a super large amount of attention at the time because we were anticipating he would shuffle if Bob didn't draw a threat. So that's interesting. Yeah.
Would you draw the Jace in that board?
I think you have to. It's
you're probably right.
Still kind of a time walk. It's gonna last for multiple turns because unless this turn plays out as we've said, the Metalworker is getting eaten, which means there isn't enough power on the board to take down a second Jace, even if he brainstorms with it. And he has a Misty in play, so there's a chance that he can hit some real gas. Like he could play Jace, sack Misty, get an island, hit something like Trinket Mage, and now actually have blockers to be able to take down a creature. I don't know if that's great, but it at least is an option. And again, Bob's at 8, so Dave's deck doesn't have a lot of reach, but if he is able to draw...
What you're saying is that Jace the Mind Sculptor card is pretty good?
It's better than all, I've heard. It's a good card. This has been a weird game. We've had a lot of weird games.
Yeah, the whole night's been kind of weird. Dredge winning on turn 2.
Well, I wonder what Bob's thinking about. I hope he's not thinking about trying to use the Forge Master in the face of this.
Oh, God. He's not going to miss the Grafdigger's Cage, is he? He plays with that card.
Yeah, he played around it last week. He
knew to sack it to his own Forge
Master, which I momentarily missed while watching. And, he saw it. And
all right, well, he revealed everything with Metalworker, so 6 mana that way.
He may just be playing a giant chalice to try to shut down. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Consecrated Sphinx? Does he have 12?
Well, the Mishra's work, yeah. Wow. He is playing a giant chalice.
So what this does is...
Chalice for 6?
The only win conditions...
Hello.
Stacker. He's got the Trinket Mages and the Jaces. The Sphinxes now are turned off.
Okay, now who did he attack? I assume he's attacking Jace?
That would make sense.
Yeah, okay.
You can let this hit happen, though.
Yeah, that's what Dave's
doing. He survives. He can sack the Misty now. Now he doesn't need the second Jace.
He drew it.
Certainly nothing wrong with drawing it.
Bounce. Yeah, that way he can... Okay, he plays to bounce the duplicate, killing the Jace that was on 1 counter, and now he's going to replay the other one.
It's not enough blue mana that he's tapped, so go back there.
I'm not in love with my opponent having a duplicate in his hand here.
No, me neither. Oh, Chalice for 6.
Chalice for 6! He's a step ahead of us. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that duplicate is gone forever. Hilarious.
Yeah, that's actually awesome.
It is actually awesome.
I'm not sure I like Bob's. Oh, wow, back to basics. Oh, wow. I guess Metalworker is in play, so it's not a huge deal. Mana Drain is actually the bigger thing because it actually shuts down him being able to cast the Forge Master and just kill it. And Bob is actually up against it. He's at 8.
Yep. Yeah, Bob decided Chalice for 6 was more important than getting the Forge Master down, and now he may not be able to get the Forge Master down.
This is crazy. Watch Bob draw like a Staff of Nin. I'm not sure exactly what his main deck is, whether he's got dragons and staffs and things like that, but There's definitely a chance for some 6s. Well, Academy is a lot of mana.
A lot of mana.
Currently 6, which would get something countered. But
he's got a Blight Steel he can hard cast. Bob has a Steel Hellkite at 6. He's a Worm Coil Engine at 6.
These are all main?
Yeah.
I knew he had some Worm Coils on the board, but I wasn't.
One of the main.
So there's definitely some bad draws.
Yeah.
Tangle Wire. What does that do? Interesting.
Staff of Nin is also a 6.
Yeah, I remember the staff.
Sundering Titan, not a 6.
He doesn't actually. Oh yeah, he just barely does. Going to still have the mana to. I guess the Metal Worker, if you draw Stunning Titan, is going to produce 4 anyway. Tangle Wire not doing too much work, especially after just getting his Forge Master mana drained. Oh, Dave's going to Fate Seal now. No, he knows Bob's last card's a duplicate, which of course is dead. So, Dave's going to try to just lock him out with Jace right now.
Love it.
3 turns away from the Trinket Mage being lethal. The back to base is going to shut down Academy. So
the chat points out that Bob could have put Lightning Greaves onto Duplicate to defend it from the whole bounce chalice.
Yeah, I think that what happened was exactly what happened to us, is that we did not immediately notice that this chalice...
Yeah, bounce by duplicate. Like, the previous turn is like, sure, you can bounce by duplicate. I'm happily pick it up.
Right, and that's exactly what I was thinking. Exactly what you said. You're like, I don't like my opponent having duplicate in hand here, and I'm like, I'm with you. That sounds awful to me. Like, I can't even cast my Sphinx. Like, oh wait, he can't cast his duplicate. Like, okay, this is actually great. Dave saw it, and okay, can we find out what happened with the Fate Seal there?
I couldn't tell if it was top or bottom. We'll try to watch a little closer. There's the back to basics.
Well, Metalworker.
He left it on top, so he left Metalworker.
Well, Metalworker is definitely a card that he would have left on top, so whether it was top or bottom, Metalworker is certainly fine for Dave to see. Although it actually can...
Yeah, you can double Black Trinket Mage. Where's your victory condition?
Well, we still have a Jason play.
That's not a victory condition. That's just, like, raw card advantage.
Are we tapping the Wasteland here? You're locking it out?
Evidently. You got to play your 3-mana 1/2.
Well,
3-mana 1/2 is crucial on this board.
You could take more damage and use Metalworker for mana. And,
Not much more.
Well, yeah, that's true. But again, the only threat in Dave's deck that can deal a single point of damage are Trinket Mages with this Chalice on 6. There's nothing else that can deal a point. Like, he doesn't have Vendilion Click. Like, there's nothing else.
He's gone through most of his Trinket Mages too, right? How many of them has he gone through?
I believe this is the second one.
I think it's the third. Because he pitched 2 to Force of Will, right?
Oh, I didn't see a second one to Force of Will. I knew the first one to Force of Will. Oh, okay. So, yeah. There's only one Trinket Mage left on the deck then.
He's going to have to, like, deck him with Jace or something?
That is something Jace can do. I don't know.
What is going on?
I still don't know.
There's a pair of Metalworkers holding off a Trinket Mage. Dave has 1 Trinket Mage left in his deck to win with, other than Jace's ultimate.
Other than Jace, yeah.
Awesome.
There's nothing you're saying that is not true. Yeah, I don't know. Both repeals have been used.
Oh, yeah, also true. I mean, I guess, does he have to, like, bounce Metalworker so he can get his Trinket Mage beats on? Is that possibly correct?
I don't think it's correct this turn, but it could become correct at some point in the game.
He can't remove the Chalice on 6, right? Main deck?
Not main deck. I don't think so. I mean, he can, but not with both repeals in the graveyard.
Yeah, sure.
I'm looking to make sure I didn't forget anything, even though I built this deck. Actually, though, his best chance of doing something big involves a time walk turn where he can like bounce Metalworker, attack time walk.
Yeah.
Time walk is his best draw and one of the few cards that I think actually does something. Soul Ring, both players just keep drawing 1s and 6s. which Bob has made sure will not be cast. Fresh deck, Jace. All right, Jace is not terrible.
True.
It's one of the few cards that actually does something, assuming that this Jace is going to have to be used offensively at some point to try to win the game. I'm not sure exactly what Dave's plan is for winning this game, but he does have some options to at least do so. Right, going back to the brainstorm well, a bunch of cards that don't do anything.
And it's Scalding. That does something.
Shuffles away the cards that don't do anything is something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That is true. So how far away would Bob be from casting Darksteel? Oh, he's just there with Metal Workers, huh? That's something to be considered.
Blightsteel Colossus can come swooping down at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, Sundering Titan's not small.
It's not.
I mean, they both get bounced by Jace, though. Oh, no, the Greaves. They don't get bounced by Jace.
Yeah.
They pick up a Greaves.
Yeah, they just win immediately. Blightsteel Colossus just comes over and wins.
Well, it gets chump blocked by Trinket Mage, but yeah.
Right, but that's winning.
But it's wearing a Greaves, so you're not bouncing it with Jace. Lodestone Golem's not a small man.
It's going to be very hard for Dave to deck an opponent that has Blightsteel Colossus. I guess Jace Ultimate, does that exile it? I'm not even entirely sure what Jace Ultimate is.
Doesn't usually
I believe it would exile if it's not currently in Bob's hand.
Yeah, no, you just have, if the Colossus is in their library, it gets exiled.
Right.
I don't think we're going to be around for that many hours. We are in match 5. It's been a Twilight Zone day. Kind of a long day, but good matches. Exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles his or her hand into his or her library. It does not take long to deck them. You just have to hope you don't catch them with the Colossus in their hand. Actually, even then, they're not going to be able to discard it.
Well, the Lodestone Golem hit, and it's holding a Greaves now, so it's going to change the game pretty dramatically.
Yeah. No, it seems like Bob just has plenty more gas he can keep playing. That decision to Chalice Sixes actually seems to be working out for him.
Yeah, that Consecrated Sphinx would have, of course, ended the game very quickly, assuming that Dave didn't bounce duplicate with a
Dave wasn't bouncing
Chalice not on the
Chalice 6 in play.
It's unlikely. But for a second, we thought that happened. So anything is possible.
Sure.
So Jace fights it. It is gone. Back up Jace, but I don't know. It's a tough spot. If Dave pre-boarded and hits an energy flux right now, things look really good. Actually, that's not even true. It's still just the Metalworker would pay for things and he just died of the Lodestone too quickly. Not really sure what you want to draw at this point. Once that Lodestone actually gets in play with Lightning Greaves on it, it's just not really a lot of ways to deal with it. At least main deck. After board, there's a lot of cards that come in.
There's the other Trinket Mage. Does that do anything?
It'll kill Lodestone Golem. Double block.
Double block, yeah. The 1/2's held off the 2/2 is what you're telling me, and now a second 2/2 is going to trade for the 5/3. That's the game we're playing. And then he's literally down to Jace's ultimate as a victory condition.
It's true.
This game is insane.
Yeah, I actually don't think that if he trades the 2 Trinket Mage for Lodestone Golem, I don't think he can win.
He's not going to win without doing that.
No, yeah, I'm trying to figure out if he can win, period. I don't think he can win by making that play, and I don't think he can win without making that play. So,
I mean, I guess the way to win is to find Time Walk. Is that what he's digging for? Yeah, that's how he wins. He finds Time Walk. He bounces a Metal Worker, attacks with 1 or even 2 Trinket Mages, Time Walks, attacks again.
It is true. If he could have just Jaced minus this turn attack, seen what happened. If Bob doesn't chump, then Dave has Time Walk. He just wins. Odds are that he chumps. But
Yeah. Another Trinket Mage, another reshuffle.
Then if he does jump, it does at least kill off all the metal workers. Yeah, actually what that would have done, if he did draw Time Walk that turn, he could have attacked, he could have bounced the metal worker, attack with Trinket Mage. If Bob doesn't block, Dave just wins. So
yeah, well, I mean, he can do all this next turn.
What?
He can do all this next turn.
You're saying if he doesn't block the Lodestone Golem?
Dave should not block the Lodestone Golem, is my opinion. Take 5 down to 7.
He just has Trinket Mage. Just wanted to make sure he shuffled.
Yeah. And he's looking at as many fresh libraries as he can.
Yeah.
I think he's got, a draw phase plus a Jace to find the Time Walk before he has to start. Oh, God. That's big.
All right. Well, that'll change things a little.
That will change things a little bit. I think this means Dave has to start blocking this turn because, or is it Sundering Titan
wins
6 power?
Well, he has Mana Drain.
Oh, okay.
It only costs 3, which looks like he left up exact Mana Drain mana. So, actually, if Bob attacks with Lodestone Golem, can Dave just win if he has to tap a Metal Worker? Not quite. He'd have to draw a Jace or a Time Walk if Bob goes for it. Also, yeah. Okay. It doesn't actually add mana because of Lodestone Golem. So he can tap a Metal Worker, play a Sundering Titan, get it mana drained, and then he has to decide whether he attacks to kill Jace or not. If he does, Dave has to draw a Time Walk or a Jace, and he just wins on the spot. That's how I see it. I might be missing something.
Yeah, Bob's been attacking Dave, right? Not Jace?
Bob ate a Jace last turn. Dave played
He ate it. That's a fresh Jace. Okay.
Yeah, the Lodestone Golem came down and ate the Jace that I believe was on 4 from a bounce and a +2. I assume this is attacking Jace, yeah. So Jace dies. The question is...
Yep.
So Dave just needs to draw Time Walk. That's it. That's all he has to do.
1 draw off a fresh library?
Oh, he's not dead. I mean...
Yeah, but his Time Walk outs start going away. He's obliged to start... I guess he can take a Golem hit. He's got 2 draws, maybe 3?
Yeah, 2 or 3. So... yeah, he does not cast Sundering Titan. Dave bricks again.
Good read from Bob. Yes, this attack's good.
Is it?
Well, look, Metalworker double blocks. You get Bob down to 2, where now Bob is in chump block mode, and you outrace the Golem. Right? You take 5 from the Golem, you attack, Metalworker chumps, you take 5 from the Golem, you attack for lethal.
For whatever reason, we've been playing so much Vintage and playing so many long games that
this whole creature combat thing is hard.
That I just flat out spaced out that when he double blocks and trades Metalworker Trinket Mage, he takes 2. that was the part I missed somehow. But yes, that is what happens.
So now there's a Forge Master and a Sundering Titan. How much mana does Bob have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Metalworker makes 8. Mox is 10. He cannot play both of those.
He can just play whatever he wants, let it get countered, and just not attack. He's got Greaves on a Lodestone Golem, and he's at literally no threat of anything bad, truly bad, happening to him. There's no way to remove that blocker.
Okay, that's a good point.
So he misses out on an attack this turn, but it's not going to really punish him in any way.
Dave has to drain this, right?
Now, if I'm Bob, I would tap, unless I'm missing something, which point out to me if I am, I would not reveal the Forge Master, the card that's not dead, and just tap the Moxes for mana. Revealing Duplicate Soul Ring and the Titan that you're casting. It's another Jace that would have done it on other turns, I think.
Wow. Lightning Greaves doing some good work here.
Oh, yeah. So Dave's decision to Spell Snare Lightning Greaves looking great, assuming Chalice for 1 wasn't out, because the Lightning Greaves has been insane.
It was a big deal.
That Chalice for 1 really didn't do much, and doesn't do much in this matchup, as a lot of Dave's ones are things like mental missteps, which are bad anyway. But definitely huge there.
Yeah.
Spellsnar's not actually, like I pointed out in the beginning of the game, Spellsnar's not great against a deck like Bob's. He does not have a lot of twos. He's got some, but not like many other shop decks that are loaded in spears and stuff. Bob's not playing those, so.
And now here's a Force of Will to stop the Forge Master.
True.
And if
We're still in that same, yeah.
Bob wants to eat the Jace?
Right. He could just not cast the Forge Master and
eat the Jace.
Right. And leave Metalworker back to block. But then Metalworker has to chump block, and it means the Forge Master's never getting cast. So it's just Trinket Mage staring down Lodestone Golem. But again, how many Jaces is that for Dave? Does he have one? No, this is the last one. Right?
Wow.
This is the last Trinket Mage and the last Jace. So
Dave can't deck him natural, right? Dave's surely gone through way more cards.
Well, also Bob just has Colossus or whatever, Colossus.
Blightstone Colossus, yeah.
So he can just go up to 8 cards, discard it, and shuffle it in. Assuming he couldn't cast it and just win the game or whatever. So I think Bob Maher wins this game by attacking, killing Jace, and leaving Metalworker back to block. I don't think that there's another threat left in Dave's deck, so I think Bob just has the entire rest of the game to sit here.
Sure. Why not?
I wonder if Dave needed to hold the Jace there. I wonder if that does anything. I feel like it doesn't, but it's so hard to try to compute exactly.
These are not scenarios they've spent a lot of time thinking about. All right, well, Bob is tapping his Metalworker, so he's not planning to leave Metalworker on defense.
Which means that Jace is going to get another turn.
Yeah.
Which means not much, I guess.
Yeah, so Bob is going for the Forge Master. And yeah, Dave found a counterspell when he played the Jace last turn. It means Golem has to stay home.
This is how Dave can win this game. He sacks Tarn, finds an island, he has to hit Time Walk, plus Jace, Time Walk, plus Jace, get it out of Lodestone range, and make it so that Bob can never attack the Jace to kill it, and then be able to use Jace to win the game. So he can't attack because Jace will be able to bounce the blocker, and he'll win with Trinket Mage. And yeah, that's what I see. That's my.
This does not look like a game where Mono Blue is supposed to be in trouble. It's just Chalice 6 and Lightning Greaves has somehow conspired to make it impossible for Dave to win.
Basically.
Well, now there's a Mana Drain. Well, he is plussing the Jace.
Fair, Dave would actually be in pretty reasonable. Maybe it's not reasonable. Maybe it's bad, but it seems like decent shape. If the cards that he had to exile weren't Trinket Mages, let's say they were Mental Missteps, which were completely just bad cards.
One of those was a choice.
No, I'm saying that I'm not saying the decision was wrong. I'm saying that just is how his hand broke down. Mm-hmm. That he had to discard a card that was actually valuable to force.
I am saying the decision was wrong, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, I'm certainly not saying it was a mistake or anything. I'm saying that the way that the draw panned out, which meant that he was in fine shape the whole time, he just was more threat, light in his deck than he would normally have been.
I think he could have pitched a spell snare instead of the first.
Yeah.
The first
Trinket Mage. That ended up coming back to bite him pretty hard just because that spell snare ended up not doing it.
The top is back.
The Jace did get to 7, so.
Bob didn't want to chump block the Metalworker?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's supposed to have.
Bob declined to attack. He didn't want to chump block the Metalworker, but I'm with you. I think he was supposed to eat the Jace because now the Jace is a threat to win the game.
If Bob is familiar with Dave's deck list, which again he should be, he certainly has a copy of it. So he should know that there is no Trinket Mage, no Jace, no Sphinx, and nothing that does anything in Dave's deck. So if the board ends up being Golem eats Jace, Metalworker chump blocks Trinket Mage, Bob can't cast another spell. Granted, Metalworker is his mana right now. Somehow he hasn't drawn a land in forever.
Yeah.
All his lands are locked down. He just has not drawn a land in forever. But Lodestone Golem just staring down Trinket Mage is Bob wins. Like, it doesn't sound like it would
It's
normally.
hilarious. No, it doesn't sound like it. And like Bob's looking at that metal worker as all his mana.
Yes.
Like
And
there's
in a
back to
normal
basics
game,
to play. All of his lands are locked down. I don't blame him for valuing the metal worker.
where you do not have access to your opponent's deck list that you can check in the middle of the game to make
Right.
sure that you're not completely right and there's nothing left in his deck, which again, if someone can see the graveyard better than me and can make sure that between the exiled zone, what's in play and what's in the graveyard, we're looking at 4 Jaces and 4 Trinket Mages, because maybe we missaw it and Bob knows that he could lose to something. Obviously, if there's another Jace in there and Dave can just draw Jace and bounce Metalworker, but that doesn't do anything either because he could have just moved the Grease over, so not a huge deal. Although I guess he would still lose that game if he has to chump with Metalworker and Lotus Golems in his hand. He'd have to draw a land that produced multiple mana that wasn't Ancient Tomb, so exactly Workshop or Lotus. But yeah, I think that Bob just wins this game if he attacked the Jace, and now it looks like he's in a lot of trouble. Dave has multiple counterspells.
Yep.
Jace is at 9, so
Yeah.
3 turns away.
We're gonna have a Jace ulti. Been a while since I've seen a Jace the Mind Sculptor go ultimate. Doesn't normally have to win the game, but it's there.
If Bob draws the Colossus, well, I guess if he draws the Colossus, he can just cast it, Greaves it, and he's in good shape.
Pretty good, yeah.
But
other than the
say
whole
that there wasn't a Greaves in play for whatever reason and couldn't give a taste.
I mean, it's still counterable. Does he?
Yeah, I'm just trying to come up with a random.
Yeah.
Bob actually
Bob has 3 caverns in his deck too. He can actually make the Colossus uncounterable.
Right. Does it do much to do that with a Hellkite? Oh wait, there's a Chalice. Yeah, but
does Cavern beat Cavern beats Chalice?
Yeah, Cavern gets around Chalice, but
right.
Does it do anything?
I mean,
yes, if he does it for
Hellkite,
3, he gets to kill the back to basics and the Trinket Mage and his Metalworker. I think that's.
He also has like a 5-power flyer.
Yeah, that's true.
Cavern, yeah, it's actually kind of a bad beat for Bob that he's gone 0 for Caverns.
Well, he's gone 0 for lands. He hasn't drawn a land in like 9 turns or something. Yeah, there's a
getting
chance
fate
that,
sealed by Jace though.
Yeah, the Jace could be putting Cavern on the bottom. Certainly a possibility.
It's kind of funny that Cavern he can get his Steel Hellkite through his own Chalice on 6. He can get the duplicate through his own Chalice on 6. Do they share a creature type? I will admit I do not know what their creature types are. Doesn't seem like they should. Duplicate's probably a shapeshifter?
Yeah, that sounds like what it would probably be. A dragon and a shapeshifter would make the most sense. Yeah, Mindbreak Trap actually would have been his best way to get around the Cavern because it doesn't actually counter it.
It exiles.
Right, it just exiles all the spells on the stack that you want.
What was that Chalice for that Bob was attempting?
Well, he revealed 6 cards, I'm guessing, and he still had 6 mana floating, so I assume 3.
Makes sense.
But I didn't see it.
Is there really? Did we miss a Trinket Mage? Is that what's going on?
It's certainly in the realm of possibility. It looks like there's 2 exiled.
Yeah,
there's certainly one that died to the Metalworkers. So.
Right.
So if there are
1 in the graveyard, 2 in the exile zone, right? How many Jaces are in the graveyard? There's only 2 Jaces in the graveyard, so there's a Jace left?
Looks like there's 3. We have to scroll up, maybe? So we try to lean in to look at my computer screen to see Moto.
Still have to, there's 3.
All right, so
the last Jace, the last Trinket Mage, no repeals to bounce the Chalice on 6. So one of those has to win the game if Dave wants to win. Yep. Jace is getting there.
He just drew another counterspell off the top, so this is entirely possible. That's exactly what's just going to happen. I mean, he needed to counter every creature that could get cast.
Yeah. No caverns. He is fate sealing, so that helps.
Yeah, there's no chance that Chalice could have been for 3 because Dave just wouldn't have countered it if there's no 3s left in the deck. So it must have been for 2.
I think it was 2. I think it was mana drain bait.
All right, if it was for 3, it would
Challenge for 3
have
gets
for 6.
it's a 6 casting cost spell. You can't challenge
Yeah.
3.
So not necessarily bait for Mana Drain, as he wouldn't be able to cast Mana Drain if he didn't Mana Drain it. But
It's very good bait.
yeah,
So delicious. It's
solid bait.
irresistible bait.
Man, in the real world, despite these players, I think played fast. Like not even like medium speed. I think they played like marginally fast. Like not a chance someone could have finished this game before it went to time. We're still in game 1. Just absolutely crazy game.
I feel like I'm enjoying watching it.
I feel like I'm enjoying.
Aren't you?
I knew I was enjoying watching it. I told you this is my main event. This is exactly what I expected to happen.
This is how you expected it to play out. Dave goes through all his Trinket Mages, all his Jaces, is facing Chalice for 6, a 12-mana spell. Uh-oh. Bob's moving in.
And Dave just
Lodestone Golem trying to eats Jace. And Dave let it happen.
Oh, he just moves the Greaves over.
And then moves the Greaves so that the Metalworker is able to chump block.
Interesting.
Well, fending off.
Bob's just dead.
Well, I mean, the next attack. He's not dead this turn.
Well, I'm saying I think he has lost this game.
Yeah. All right, there's the chump block.
Even
force.
He can't cast anything with Cavern anyway. He was not even going to have enough mana to recast.
He was about to lose.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing with this play this turn. Although many turns ago when we talked about how he had to attack Jace, he had to.
Unbelievable that Jace ultimate got there. If Bob had made that attack with the Metalworker chump back before Jace got over 5 loyalty, I think he could have won this game. Maybe.
Yeah.
Certainly wouldn't have lost it this way.
No. Sure.
All right. Well, let's look at these deck lists.
I'm pretty familiar with one of them.
Sure. Well, let's look at Bob's list then. No, I don't want to see that.
I think you should board in all the dredge returns.
Yeah.
Forge
there's only 2 Crucibles in the main. Funny. Oh, the Crucible. Sorry, I'm thinking Chalice. Bob knows that he's going to have to play against Energy Flux. There's basically nothing he can do about that, right?
Nope.
Good.
Go through all these cards and why they're bad. Which Watch Crept and Grafdigger's Cage, all real bad for a multitude of reasons. And Crucible just doesn't do anything.
Crucible does a little bit. Like after you're locked under back to basics, you can start wastelanding your own lands, putting them back into play untapped. It's not nothing.
Are we being okay? Sure.
I'm actually not kidding. I think it's worth having one for that line.
I don't think
it comes up.
I think it's real bad. I think that the needle comes in and the revoker comes in because
Dave doesn't have any wastelands. That's what I'm missing. It doesn't work without wastelands.
Right. Dave has one non-basic land in his entire deck.
Bob doesn't even have a strip mine?
Weird. Is that
weird? I didn't realize he had no wastes and no strip.
Oh, I didn't either. Bob's actually now. We talked about how many turns he went without drawing a land. He's not playing any lands.
Yeah, there's only 11 of them. This is the entire list, right?
No, we're missing a card. We're missing a few cards. I think there's like 8 more lands or something.
No, there's a strip, 4 wastelands, and Tolarian Academy. Okay, this is just missing stuff. So, right, he does have 4 wastelands. He does have a strip, and he has a Tolarian Academy. That's what's missing from this list. I honestly think that Crucible, like wasting your own lands to get to keep casting stuff through a back to basics, is worth having one in your deck. Maybe 2. I mean, if you get the strip going, it's also decent, right?
I don't really think that there are actually too many cards in his deck that are bad. He just doesn't have cards
now
to
he's
bring
about
in.
to look and say, what do you take out?
Yeah. So it's not like one of the. I mean, should we take a quick look at Dave's deck before we head back to
well, we may as well get to the game. We know it's the 3 energy flux is the crucial thing.
Yeah, 3 energy flux, Hercules Recall, 2 copies of Steel Sabotage, 2 copies of Dismember, and potentially something like Sower of Temptation.
Yeah, basically the same cards you brought in against Chris in the first match of the day.
I actually did not bring in
this matchup, huh?
Yeah. I did not bring in Sower actually against Chris, which I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, because I was worried about all the metamorphs.
Fair enough. That's kind of funny.
The metamorph was a little daunting.
Let's see. Bob is that 2 workshops with a Lodestone Golem, Forge Master, Thorn. It's a pretty good draw.
So
you probably go turn 1 Thorn with that draw, and then turn 2 Lodestone.
Yep.
Or you can
Sounds
turn
accurate.
2
Dave's
Forge
draw
Master. I think turn
is
2 loads.
decent and horrendous. Dave's draw is weird. It has the 2 non-basics in the deck.
There. Oh, wow. Do you mulligan that draw? Academy Strip Mine? I mean, sorry, Library Strip Mine?
Like, the problem with that draw is if you play turn 1 library, you're going to get some extra cards, but you might just be dead. Like, Bob's deck is going to present a bunch of threats, and you can't actually cast Mana Drain until turn 3 at the earliest, assuming you don't hit Mox Sapphire or Lotus. So,
but now you've got one island. You've got Steel Sabotage, Force of Will with Back to Basics, Time Walk. I mean, these are the better cards. But
Force of Will is a big one to have against more Mishra's Workshop decks in general. It's a large part of the reason why I was able to keep my mulligan against Chris. I ended up sitting there on no permanents, no lands for I lost track of how many turns it was.
That game was crazy.
Yeah, but I had so many Force of Wills which were able to stop what he had, and luckily he didn't draw any man lands to actually be threats. So I was able to survive despite not doing anything basically forever.
All right, here's the Thorn we predicted. Dave has to force this, right?
Yep.
Pitching Back to Basics, Time Walk, Jace.
Yeah, I don't think it can be Back to Basics, and I don't think it can be Steel Sabotage. I'm not sure. I think they're both reasonable pitches between Time Walk and
I agree with Time Walk, I think.
Yeah, Time Walk
Steel Sabotage
is Explorer, but Explorer is pretty sweet here. Like, if he draws a land and can just get Back to Basics into play on turn 3, let's say he runs really well, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's losing that ability, but he could draw a land and like Mana Drain or something and be in great shape still. There's not good timing. Would have rather discarded that.
Definitely. Now Bob's line is Workshop Lodestone Golem, right?
Yeah, that's what I would do. He could actually cast like a Forge Master to basically again bait something like a Steel Sabotage here. Definitely his less impressive threat.
Okay, yeah, he's leading with the weaker card and running it into the Steel Sabotage, just the way he drew it up.
So now Dave's going to need just a ridiculous run of good cards because he needs mana and he needs cards he can cast. Like, if he just draws running island to actually turn on his Back to Basics, he'll be dead before anything happens anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And if he drew good spells, Bob just has too many threats. So,
yeah.
Now that Lodesness at play, I mean, he has to draw land, but he has to draw so many perfects in a row. I don't think they're actually there.
And the Crucible came in.
Actually, Dave's out was drawing Black Lotus that turn, being able to just go. Well, he actually couldn't do anything. He has to draw Black Lotus next turn because it costs 5 because of Lodestone Golem. But this Steel Hellkite's gonna make that not matter anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he can take Steel Hellkite now. So Black Lotus is still live-ish.
I mean, he's about to take 10.
No, he's stone dead at this point. But I was saying if he drew Black Lotus this turn and took Steel Hellkite, well, he would still be dead because of the duplicate. But things actually look like they weren't over. Now they're long over.
Now they're over.
Oh yeah. Well, you were right. Crucible did come in.
We get a game 3.
Yeah. So Dave was telling me that he was looking to just play some games of Vintage this week and hoping to play test some of the matchup, but he was on the East Coast for poker tournaments who were on a bit of a different schedule. And he looked in the queue, and who's sitting there? TGO, of course, Bob Maher. And it just so happens he's playing exactly his deck. And so that was just playing in the heads up queue, like, you guys, and Dave's like, you want to just play some, for fun matches instead of us putting our tickets in and playing on Magic Online? He's like, yeah, sure, let's play. So they ended up testing this week their matchup.
I ran into Bob. Same thing happened. I ran into Bob it was an 8-man queue, but still, I was playing my VSL deck. He was playing his VSL deck. We were compared the next week, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, once the decks are already known, might as well just run it. Like I played.
Who was winning?
Dave said it went about 70-30 for Bob, but they both agreed that Dave's draws were quite bad and that it was close.
Ooh, here, Dave gets to go turn 1 Soul Ring into turn 2. His choice, Energy Flux, Back to Basics, Jace.
Yeah, the fact that he can go turn 1 Soul Ring, which means that even if Bob has his good draw and just play a turn 1 Thorn, Dave can still do something very powerful.
Bob can go turn 1 Metalworker.
He can.
That's probably the line you take with that hand, right?
Yeah, anytime you can get a Metalworker out, especially under Steel Sabotage not being up, Mana Drain not being up, it's going to be great. And it actually is your best way to pay essentially an upkeep on every artifact you have. He was saying that was the biggest problem he was having, Dave, was that the Metal
paying for energy flux.
Was paying for energy flux. But the combination, he said, of energy flux and back to basics that's tough to beat because all of your lands are like less than one shot because, the Metalworker can't actually cast spells because it's being tapped during your upkeep.
Right.
So, actually, interestingly enough, if the game plays out like that, and he plays turn 1 Soul Ring, of course, and turn 1 Metalworker comes out, if he plays Energy Flux, he actually can't cast something like Back to Basics because his Soul Ring will be under the Energy Flux.
Funny. Oh, Soul Ring first.
Soul Ring right back.
Bob.
So you can play turn 1 Lodestone Golem if you wanted to.
Now he can play turn 1 Lodestone Golem. Is that better than turn 1 Metalworker? It's got to be.
I think it is, but it's not in the face of Energy Flux.
Well, Energy Flux, you tap Ancient Tomb, right?
No, it's not. It's not backbreaking, but I'm saying the Metalworker would probably be the stronger thing to have in play before the Lodestone Golem instead of trying to get into play after.
This Energy Flux is going to be insane, isn't it? Yeah, he goes for the Lodestone Golem. And Dave can pay 1 extra for Energy Flux, and Bob has 3 artifacts.
He also has 5 mana, so both these draws are really good. Mana Drain is obviously excellent. The funny thing is Dave really wants to leave up Mana Drain just because Mana Draining anything basically turns on casting everything next turn, although not as much so as it would normally be because Lodestone Golem is something you can play on turn 1.
You're going to go to all the trouble of putting Energy Flux in your deck. You clearly run it here.
Well,
this causes Bob crazy problems, right? I haven't seen Energy Flux in play in like 15 years, maybe 20. This is kind of awesome.
Does is that Bob lets the Mox die, pays upkeep. I assume the Soul Ring would just pay for itself because why wouldn't it in the Ancient Tomb for the Lodestone Golem?
Right, but then you're done casting spells?
Yeah. I mean, he can draw a land. He's certainly capable of drawing Mishra's Workshop, which...
He has to.
Yeah.
He's basically done casting spells here.
And
you're right. I think Ancient Tomb is just going to pay...
Back to basics.
I mean, if he doesn't want to tap Ancient Tomb, he can have the Soul Ring pay for Lodestone Golem once.
You know how powerful this Soul Ring card is?
Pretty ridiculous.
So ridiculous. Wow. This has been a crazy match. Feels like, obviously Dave is so far ahead here, but could just be wrong. Like that might not even.
There's a 5/3 attacking him and making the stuff cost more. Dave's Soul Ring is going to die.
Well, it pays for itself, but more or less dead. Yeah, Dave can't actually cast any spells, although, I mean, leaving Mana Drain out is not exciting when you are taking 5 a turn. Like, if he's able to draw...
Bob can't cast spells. You just made it so your opponent can't possibly feed a spell to your Mana Drain.
Right. So he really wants to draw, like, a Mana Crypt, which is actually perfect here, because you don't have to pay for it with Energy Flux, and he can just, bounce the Lodestone Golem. So he just let Soul Ring die instead of paying for it with itself, which is... Oh, he paid... No.
Yeah, he used the Soul Ring mana to pay for the Lodestone Golem, which he gets to do once. Which basically, he needed to draw a land to play Metalworker, is what he needed to do right there.
All right.
Like,
it certainly works if you draw, like, Academy, but other than that.
Yeah. Any land, any kind of Metalworker. Go back to the game. Instead, all he can do is play a Thorn.
Well, Dave's hand is currently not capable of doing anything.
No, it's true. That Lodestone Golem could actually go all the way here.
Of course, Dave's deck has multiple copies of things like Steel Sabotage now, which would just be ridiculous.
But Dave has to draw something. Like, he got his Energy Flux. I think Bob gambled on his draw phase. I do not blame Bob for that gamble on his draw phase. I think it makes a lot of sense to say, you know what? I've got this Ancient Tomb. If I can draw Mox, then I get to play my Metalworker. Any land or any Mox would have turned on Metalworker that turn, which can then pay upkeep on lots of things forever.
I agree. I think his play was right. I definitely agree with it. So
it just didn't work.
He's actually just going to die now because
now Back to Basics, lock down his Ancient Tomb next turn.
Dave drew the land, and
Yep.
Bob did not draw anything he could cast. So no matter if he casts anything now, he's super dead because he gets drained into Jace into back to basics, and otherwise he just gets back to basics. So Bob's going to be on 0 permanents with an energy flux in play.
Unbelievable. I mean, technically, Bob will have a permanent in play. It's just it doesn't untap.
Yeah, a permanent that he can't untap, and Dave's hand has multiple mana drains, and the Lodestone Golem's going to die, so Jace can just be cast right now.
Wow, energy flux.
Bob actually made the decision to not cast Thorn the turn before this when he had the 2 mana up, right?
Well, it wouldn't do anything. I mean,
It stops
Dave wasn't
from being cast this turn.
No, he couldn't cast it last turn. He had to cast it the turn before. Last turn, he had to pay for.
No. I'm saying the turn before, the turn where you made the gambit of letting the
Yeah, but my point is, it doesn't stop Dave from doing anything. It would have made Dave's 3-land turn. He would need 5 mana for the enchantment instead of. Yeah, right. This game's over.
Isn't that exactly like what are you looking to do? Oh,
I mean,
you're saying the Thorn just died. I'm stupid.
The Thorn dies to energy flux. You only get it for 1 turn. Like, you get to pick a 1-turn window, and Bob decided it wasn't worth taking 2 damage for that 1-turn window.
It's late.
It is late. Energy flux has not been in play in a lot of our games, I'm going to guess, in a while, but nice find. I mean, this deck looks cool. I like this mono blue deck. Definitely enjoyed watching it. I have enjoyed decks like this in the past. I may have to take this one out for a spin at some point.
It was very fun to play. I promise you that.
Consecrated Sphinx is awesome. And Bob has proven incapable of casting spells once again. Well, okay. Workshop, he gets to play Metalworker. He had the window there.
Jace can bounce it. Jace just gets to bounce things.
Wow, propaganda? Really?
Might bring that one in, which I did not bring in against Chris, although I considered it for like 30 seconds before game 3.
Sure.
It is interesting against all the factories and stuff, but
yeah.
I guess
with all now, Dave never needs to tap again. He got Jason to play. Bob was top deck to the workshop. Bob's ability to draw lands needs a lot of work.
He's not playing very many lands. I mean, our list on screen had him at 11. It's more than that, but it's not significantly more than that.
It's like 18. I think there were 17. There were 6.
He hasn't drawn any Moxes or Lotuses or anything like that either.
Also true. Wow, look at Dave's hand.
And a Soul Ring this game, though.
He's going to play the propaganda. I can't believe the crazy enchantments that are in this deck. 2 and a blue times 3.
Yeah, should have splashed an Enchantress to really go off. Well, Bob Maher was definitely one of my picks to win this thing, but 0-5, I don't think it's going to happen.
No, it would be hard to make the playoffs. I'm not sure 4-5 could make the playoffs. Maybe mathematically, but it seems highly unlikely. He wants to get out of last, though. If he wants to play next season.
His big deck for the last set, I'm sure.
Maybe. Yeah, this gets Dave 2 off the bottom, too. Dave will be, I guess Josh Utter-Layton is the last player on 1-4. So, yeah, Bob will be 0-5. Josh will be 1-4. And then it's Tom, Dave, me, Rich sitting on 2-3.
A little cluster there.
Yeah. Oh, but Kula is actually alone in 4th. He's the only 3-2. Interesting. I wanted to beat Martel. I thought I was going to beat him. And the matchup advantage. Now the salt's kicking.
Finally.
I got nothing. Running out of things to talk about in this game.
Yeah. Dave might have boarded out at, a copy of Consecrated Sphinx and been 1 threat down because of how much mana it costs. And once you get to that much mana in these games, typically you're just going to win anyway. It's not like this deck is closing you out very fast. So if you're able to get around all the mana denial and set up your wall of counter spells, you're not really concerned about, I need to finish this game quickly. So, yeah, that's generally going to be the case once you have enough mana to cast a card that costs as much as Sphinx. So definitely something that can be shaved here. So it might take a little bit longer than normal for Dave to actually win this game. But
yeah,
at least there's a Trinket Mage in play now. Bob doesn't have enough mana in his entire deck to resolve a spell this game, I think. I honestly think that's true. I guess if he got all his lands out and was able to cast everything at once, but through this wall of counter spells, it's just not happening.
Is he fate sealing now?
And even if he did, there's just an energy flux up back to basics.
Right. What did he name with Cavern, by the way?
I don't know.
Construct.
All right.
Is that what the Forge Master is?
Forge Master, yeah.
Lodestone the Golem. Metalworker. No idea what Metalworker is. Metalworker does it still not have a creature type? Does it have? Oh, it's a construct now. Metalworker is also a construct. The printed Metalworker has.
Sure about the Forge Master one?
What's that?
Okay. Forge Master is okay. That is a construct. Metamorph may or may not be a construct, but I don't think Bob's playing them, is he?
I don't think so. It's kind of surprising how few cards Bob and Chris overlap by.
Yeah, it is actually very, very surprising how
part of the reason why I can't get behind Luis's crusade to call all shops decks stacks. It's like there's too many variants.
Neither of them
workshop
stacks. They're both stacks, and neither has a smokestack.
Right. I don't buy it. There's too many variants of workshop decks to keep using the stacks.
How many cards overlap do they actually have? I'm trying to count. Not counting mana, it's like
Chalice.
13.
Lodestone Golem.
It's not even that many of the lands. Like obviously all the Moxes, not even Black Lotus.
The workshops are obviously crucial, and the Waste and the Strip.
And the Ancient Tombs.
Ancient
the Lodestone Golems, the Chalices, and the Thorns. And then Bob has one Revoker, but the whole rest of the deck is...
Yeah. The non-mana spells overlap by, it might be less than 10.
Yeah, I think it's 13.
13?
4 Chalice, 4 Thorn, 1 Revoker, 4 Golem, and then the Max.
This set of games, by the way, has not been kind to the workshop decks. They're 0-4.
Yeah.
You and Dave are finally going to win in the same week? You guys had split all 4 weeks, right?
It's true, yeah. Forgot about that.
Now you guys are 2-0. Storm combo decks are, I think, 0-5 now on the tournament.
This was the only matchup of players who were both 0-1 in the previous week, I believe. So there was a lot. We had a lot of 0-1s versus 1-0s, and the 1-0s won all of them.
Oh, interesting.
And then I believe Raptor and LSV were the 2 winners, and Bob and Dave were the 2 in the losers bracket. And Luis winning that match, going to 4-1. Gets the showdown with Steve Menendian.
Yeah, that's a big game. That's 1 versus 2. Maybe you're 2. You're tied with Luis for second, obviously.
And Luis probably has better tiebreakers than me. He's really lucky.
Yeah, to be clear, for those of you who don't know the official rules, all ties at the end of the season will be decided by playoff games. So there are no tiebreakers. Tiebreakers are played out. Rematch.
So you're saying I have a lot of incentive to finish tied with Luis?
Just to get to play more matches.
Check out our vintage challenge at all?
I did. That was kind of a blowout.
I think that if you 3-0 someone in a vintage challenge should count as your VSL week also. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure Martel will sign up for this.
They already played and Luis won, though.
I know. He got crushed by Luis.
Oh, yeah.
Even
Luis,
more harshly than you beat
Luis got by Martel. That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
Is it Trinket Mage done 20 damage yet?
It's getting close.
Getting there. I think Ancient Tomb did a little bit. It's only got to do like 16.
Yeah. Can't imagine the giant goofy grin on Dave's face right now.
He's got to feel good getting 2 matches off the bottom too.
Yeah. Like winning games like this is like obviously in some ways like nothing's happening. He's just completely locked out of the game, but it's pretty sweet. Like he won with Energy Flux back to basics propaganda.
Propaganda never did anything. It never even triggered.
That is true.
I think he won with Energy Flux back to basics. Energy Flux back to basics combo was ridiculous.
Propaganda
was just a card he didn't have to discard.
True.
Still, cool deck. And cool match. I think we have the not the standings, but the bracket, the schedule for this week. We can kind of remind everybody. We kept alluding to it, but for those of you who haven't been with us, actually, if you haven't been with us, maybe you want to stay for the rebroadcast. But, so, yeah, I guess it is pretty late. We're not going to be able to do a rebroadcast tonight. So here's what you missed. If you missed it, you can go watch the videos on demand. But we started out with a battle of 3-1s. Eric, with the same mono blue deck you just saw Dave Williams win with, was victorious over Chris Pakula. Then it was sort of longtime friends and teammates, Josh Utter Layton and Luis Scott Vargas. And there it was LSV who was victorious. That match was awesome. They were like, Josh got to go off with his Pyromancer's Ascension deck. He thought he had it won. Luis top deck Yawgmoth's Will on the last possible turn. It was just an awesome match. But Luis moves to 4-1, tied with Eric. The longtime vintage
right
rivals.
Before he drew the Yawgmoth's Will, already on tilt.
Yeah.
And Yawgmoth's Will came off the top, and he just went crazy.
The longtime rivals, Steve Menendine and Rich Shea, rematching the 07 Vintage World Championships, and it was Steve who took it again, just like he did in 2007. So he's sitting at 5-0 and in great shape. We'll have to see if LSV can derail him next week. I played against Tom. I took a bunch of mulligans. My draws were terrible. I still won the second game. And not only did Tom have the mental misstep to stop me in game 3, he also was able to kill me on the second turn, despite his own mulligans. Is that salty enough for you? That's what you wanted me to do when I came in?
I was just kidding.
Right.
It's something that got alluded to a bunch of times in some of the previous shows, so I was just trying to give you your time.
All right. Yeah. Mostly just try to control the things I can control, which there wasn't a whole lot of there. Not when it mattered anyway. Bob versus Dave, we just watched. Bob Maher does fall to 0-5. And so Williams gets 2 matches off the bottom. Bob's got some work to do. Josh has got some work to do if those guys want to be invited back for next season. Next week's games, we've got the week 6 schedule. We can show you guys. Big match there has got to be LSV versus Menendian, sitting there right there in the middle of the schedule. 5-0 versus 4-1 at this point. We also get to watch Rich play against Chris Pakula, see if Chris can prevent the 3-0-0-3. He stuck to the Shops deck that got him 3 wins in the first set. Has not done so well here. I have to play against this mono blue deck. Eric already beat me once. You play Tom Martell. How's your dredge matchup?
I don't know. Probably not good.
Find out. Tom's certainly trying to go from 0-3 to 3-0. He's on his way there. And then, oh, wow, it's Bob versus Josh. It's the battle at the bottom. I didn't realize those guys were queued up for next week. That's a pretty big game, especially for 0514. I mean, if Josh wins that, Bob is 2 matches behind everybody, or it becomes a tie and Bob controls his own destiny. Like, Bob controls his own destiny right now, but he won't.
I wonder if that's why Bob decided to play no Metamorphs in this deck, knowing that Josh was likely to play 4 main deck Pyroclasts.
That matchup has to be a huge edge to Bob, right?
I would certainly imagine so, but
Josh is trying to cast a whole bunch of spells against the guy with chalices and thorns in his deck.
Yeah, he doesn't have spheres, so not as bad as it could be, but yeah, it does not seem...
Yeah, Chris's version might be better against Josh, but Bob still has to have the edge there. I would think.
Yeah, plus Bob's deck can kind of go off on its own, and I don't think there's much that a deck with lightning bolts and Pyroclasts really going to do to stop that.
All true. All right, well, week 5 is in the books. I guess we crossed the halfway point. 4 matches to go in the regular season, and then it'll be playoff time. Top 4 advance to the playoffs. Well, we'll see how many people are tied for it. May need an extra week of playoffs. Is kind of what I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
Hope you guys have enjoyed it. We will be back next week. I will warn you guys, it's a couple weeks away now, but we are going to take the week off for Pro Tour Hawaii. So when the league is all sequestered in testing houses on the way to Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir, we will not have Vintage Super League matches on, I guess, what is that, October the, I guess it's the 7th? Yeah, October the 7th. So
we'll get a lot of us, including myself and Randy, that weekend. So we'll try to make up for some good coverage in the PT, maybe some cool decks and some good features there. So there's going to be some good Magic to watch right here on this channel. So I wouldn't be too worried about that week. But
fair. There will be a lot of week, so. That's true. Anyway, see you guys next week. We'll be back with Vintage Super League, 7 o'clock next Tuesday. See you then.